Hey YouTube, Kimberly's still driving, so we are on T6. So the title of this video is Winching on T6. And yeah, we do some winching, and yeah, we are on T6. It is a green trail at Rausch. So there's our setup on the inside with Kimberly driving, and there's our radio. So on a lot of this today, for this, I'm going to be hand holding the camera for this ride. So it might be a little bit more shaky than normal, so to speak. I'm going to try my best to try to keep it in place while she's driving. So we get to the winching pretty immediately. So we just finished the tip top, and everybody's sort of like in a little different order now than we were. I don't think the orange Jeep has been in front of us most of the day. And obviously Kimberly drove tip top, so that's why she's still driving, because that's where she jumped out. So we just started the screen trail, and immediately, you know, we get stuck. Well, we don't get stuck immediately. Everybody stops moving, and I hear over the radio something about somebody being stuck, and we hop out and check it out. So you can see that this trail is so wide, like literally maybe 4 Jeeps. Like if you just get that Jeep in front of us, that orange Jeep, and just lay them out side by side, you can almost see how big it is. So here we go. We're gonna go see what we have to do to do the winching and everything. So when I got out, I was looking to see what was going on, and you can see that they had already decided probably to just winch him out. You can see here he basically decided to go in the ruts for whatever reason, and the ruts were too big for his Jeep. You can see here it's kind of dark, but the wheels are actually off the ground, and he is basically high-centered. So that means that there's something in the center of the Jeep holding the Jeep off the ground. So he's not going to be going anywhere without somebody pulling him or winching him, and you can see that they already have the winch line out. And that's the important thing. Always have your recovery gear handy. I keep like a set of gloves and the winch cable and a shackle underneath my driver seat, so I can just hop out and immediately just hook up and go. So this is a steel winch cable. You can tell by looking at the. It doesn't look steel, but it looks like it's probably a steel winch cable. And like I said, usually it's just a short little tug that it takes to get somebody unstuck. You don't usually have to winch them, you know, very far. So the general idea on obstacles like this is to not put your tire in the rut. The general idea is to put the tires on the upper area and then have the rut between the tires. And I wasn't watching, I don't know if they slipped off the edge, but typically that's like kind of like the opposite. Typically you want like a V shape underneath, where the tops of the V is where the tires are. You know, like that right there. You typically do not want it the other way. So right now they're just trying to get unstuck. And you can see how big the rut is, I mean, because that front tire, when it came down, wasn't even touching the ground.
You're all good.
Now this is a green trail at Rausch, and like I was saying, it seems like a lot of the green trails turn into almost like light blue trails at Rausch, and I think part of it is just because they don't do like heavy maintenance on their trails to keep them graded. So that's a good example of the way that you should be lined up. You see the way that there's the V kind of shape between the tires. You always want to look for the biggest obstacle and then put the tires on the biggest obstacle, so you have that nice V shape, and nothing gets hung up. And he'll go right over the exact same obstacle, no problems, because he is placing the tires on the outside of the rut. And then that technique there is called straddling. So if somebody says straddle it, that means that they want you to put the tires on the bigger objects and make the V shape. So, and that, see, that isn't exactly straddling because the back tire went in it, but it's not the end of the world because, you know, we're on 40s. But yeah, straddling is, you know, when you try to put your tires on big objects and then you try to make a hole between the tires. Because the lowest point on the Jeep is the pumpkin or the differential. It's like right in the center of the Jeep typically, and then the next lowest spot would be your control arms, which are on the back of the Jeep, on the inside of the tires. So if you didn't notice, there was no Keith. Like, Keith is our leader, and you know, I'm not calling him out or whatever, but I am sort of. We had the guy like basically pulled out and recovered like before the leader even had a chance or whatever, the driver had to come down and see what was going on. So that's kind of, you know, amazing on our part that we were able to you know, get him unstuck without having to wait for the trail guy to come down and see what was going on. I mean, he was only like 3 or 4 Jeeps up, but still, we were kind of doing that throughout the day. You know, I think at one point somebody had like a flat tire, and we went out and you know, we had the flat tire like back on the bead basically, and the guy like ready to go right by the time Keith got back to us. So he was pretty happy with the lack of having to work too hard to fix some of this stuff. The one problem Jeep that he had some issues with was that first Jeep, and it was just, you know, lack of experience, probably being a little smaller, and that happens all the time. You just, you know, put them up near the front, near the guide, and then, you know, every so often you just give them a little bit of a tip here, tip there, and they learn, they get better. So this is still Green Trail that we're on, and the obstacle that we went through, I think, was probably the, I don't think it was an intended obstacle. I think it was more like just where the rainwater had gone down the trail and create that big rut. But I do believe that was probably the biggest obstacle on this trail.
Alright, front stop. Let me know when you got him. Copy.
Oh, somebody else stuck?
I don't know.
So we're leaving like the tip stop area, and that sign there, T6. It's the same trail that we're currently on. T6 is one of the connector trails on the northeast property that allows you to go between trails. So outside of that one single route that we had a winch on, I don't think that there's that many other challenges on this trail. Now, this area of the trail is a little bit narrower. There's, you know, room to get over in the bushes, obviously, but it is a little bit narrower than the other areas. So, I mean, this kind of makes me think a little bit more of like an AOAA green, you know, where there's not really any space to pass anybody without actually going in the bushes. But at the same time, just looking at the trail, I don't think that it would be difficult to even get like a one-ton truck, you know, going through here with like a trailer behind it or something, because it's just like there's nothing really kind of challenging the sides or the mirrors or anything like that. It's pretty open. So we're going to continue to document the trails that we went on this blue guided ride at Rausch Creek with Off-Road Consulting, and there's still a handful more trails that we went on today, and I'm trying to document them per trail, so then if anybody later on wants to see, you know, what does trail T6 look like, or what does this other trail look like, they can at least get an idea. Like, I totally get the trail conditions change over the different seasons. So this is the K trail that we just turned on to. It's another connector, and so please like and subscribe. Subscribing always helps a whole lot for me, so I can open up more tools on the channel. So thank you.